Well, if you're struggling financially, then you're probably paying attention to those messages you hear about debt consolidation. It's an option when you fall behind in your bills. You kind of roll everything into one loan, and often your payments will go down.
Yeah, but there's more to it than just that. Joining us is Our Lady of the Law, Emery, to talk about what this is all about. We're going to talk about debt consolidation, and let's even go before that, because you fall into this cycle where you're going through a tough time. You don't have enough money to make ends meet. It's a tough economy for a lot of people. They can't meet their obligations. Right. So what are the options then for them when they find that they can't meet their obligations?
Well, what I'm going to talk about today is a category of debt and obligation that's called unsecured debt. As opposed to your house or your car, those items are secured debt. In other words, the money that you owe is secured by property. The money you owe on your car loan is secured by your car. The money you owe on your house is secured by your house. That's a totally separate category of debt. It's dealt with differently in bankruptcy. What I'm going to talk about today is unsecured debt and what your options are when it comes to unsecured debt. That's things like credit cards, medical bills, signature loans, other kinds of things that are not backed up by some kind of collateral. And that's a totally separate category of debt, and it's dealt with very differently in bankruptcy.
Okay, so say that I'm so behind on certain payments. Say that I am.
Sure, hypothetically
right?
speaking.
How would I know if, this debt consolidation, I may be thinking, that seems like it's going to be better for my credit score.
Sure.
And I just don't have all the answers. I mean,
well, we see that a lot. People come into us and they say, hey, listen, I'm making my car payment, I'm making my house payment, but I've got $600, $700 a month in minimum payments on credit cards that is really causing me to struggle on paying those things that are a little bit more important. So what are my options? Well, and what I want to stress today is that debt consolidation takes many forms. One of those forms is something like, you have 8 credit cards and you make 8 payments to 8 different creditors. Sometimes you go out and you get one loan from a bank, you pay them all off, and then you just owe the bank. Well, that loan often requires you to give another mortgage on your house, and it can be really complicated. And so you've turned unsecured debt into secured debt, and that's something else that encumbers your property. So often that's really not the most effective way of dealing with it.
Well, a lot of times you hear the commercials on the radio, why, if you're struggling to meet your obligations, hey, we have a service for you that can consolidate everything together. And you say that can be dangerous sometimes.
And that is a different kind. So you can get a loan and consolidate everything.
Right.
The next thing you can do is sometimes it's referred to as debt consolidation, sometimes it's referred to as debt reorganization. It's where you hire a company to sort of negotiate with your creditors for you to make lower payments, lower interest rates, and things like that. And the reason that's dangerous is because it doesn't have any teeth to it for protecting you.
You're not going through a court of law.
That's right. You're hiring a company that is asking a creditor to work with you, and the creditors may or may not, they're not under any obligation to do that. And so to give you an example, I had somebody come into my office a few months ago who had hired a debt consolidation company. She paid them $3,500 for their services.
And that didn't start to reduce any of the...
That's right. Not one cent of that went to any of her creditors yet. Okay. That was, she was building toward that. But while she was building toward that, she got sued by one of her creditors. And so she said, wait a minute, I thought that was why I was doing debt consolidation. Well, it isn't mandatory on your creditors. Your creditors can continue to collect against you while you're in this process. And that's the difference between bankruptcy and the kind of consolidation that I'm talking about. When you're in a bankruptcy, you're protected from any collection activities by your creditors. And so basically your creditors have to accept what is offered them through the bankruptcy court.
So let's talk about the better option in more depth, because I think a lot of people are afraid of bankruptcy.
Sure.
I mean, there are just some things that we think go along with bankruptcy
the stigma,
that we also think probably debt consolidation has to be better than that.
Sure.
Why are you saying bankruptcy is the better option?
Well, and it isn't the better option for everybody, but you need to know what your options are, and you need to understand how debt consolidation versus bankruptcy will play out. Many times bankruptcy is a much quicker route to rebuilding, and many times you do wind up paying all of your creditors in a bankruptcy. That's a function of what your income is and what kind of assets you have, but mostly what I want people to understand is that they really need to explore all of their options before they commit to one. You may come in and see us and we may say, hey, listen, bankruptcy isn't your best option, and in that case you may want to pursue something else, but educate yourself on what the consequences are of pursuing any of those courses when it comes to unsecured debt.
Yeah, and when talk about the payment plan when you do file for bankruptcy, because I thought that this was interesting, that you can pay no interest on the unsecured debt.
Right.
Meaning the credit card bills and whatnot. So you're paying it back, but you don't have to pay. Sometimes we were talking about this earlier. You'll do kind of a promotional deal where two years no interest on whatever product that
Right.
you're getting. And then after that certain time, if you didn't follow the rules to the T, then you could get it bumped up to like 29%
Sure.
interest
2 years
rate.
later, you're suddenly
Right.
shocked at
How much
what
it,
you owe.
So,
can't keep your payment down.
so talk about it. How does the process work?
Okay,
then
well, what
going
we're
forward?
talking about when we talk about that is a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is called the reorganization chapter of bankruptcy, and that's for people that have income and have a job where they can fund a payment. Essentially, we take all of your unsecured debt and everything goes into one little package, and the amount that you have to pay back is dependent on your income and it's dependent on your assets. Sometimes people pay 100% of their creditors back on an unsecured debt, but that's controlled by the bankruptcy court. There's no interest. They can't continue to hit you with additional fees and fines and penalties. It's basically kind of put a lid on it, and that's all they can do. And you make those payments every month for 5 years, and then you come out debt-free. So there are many ways that a bankruptcy can help you that people may not be aware of.
So really fast, exploring the options you're saying is most important. Understanding
Exactly.
what options are available to you, and you guys can help with that.
That's right, we sure can. We offer free consultation to anybody that wants to discuss their options when it comes to bankruptcy and debt consolidation, things like that. So
Yep.
come on in and see us and find out what your options are.
And these are, for people that aren't trying to skip out on their obligations. They're not like, oh, how can I get out of
Exactly.
not having
Right.
to pay what I've,
Absolutely.
said that I would pay.
Exactly.
It's for people who can't find a job. They
Right.
can't physically make
Sure.
ends meet. They're
Exactly.
sure trying, so there are options out there.
Reorganization, that's what we're trying to do. Reorganize to help you pay for the things you really need to pay for.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much for being here, Our Lady of the Law, Allison Emery, and the advice. And thanks to Emery, Kast, and Walker, of course, for sponsoring this segment.
Yeah, remember the biggest mistake you can actually make when facing financial hardship is to do nothing at all. So the legal team of Emery, Kast, and Walker understands what we're going through, and they're there to help good people in bad times. Visit that website. It's www.jackslawyer.com, or just give them a call at 904-404-3394 for that free consultation she was telling us about, and they'll help you find some solutions to your problems. They've got offices in Jacksonville and St. Augustine.
All right.